friend of mine, Moises Nareda, who works at Whirlpool Corporation, way on the other side of Lake Michigan. We met through a bunch of Kellogg things, and those of you that know me, I host my Kellogg classes at corporate facilities at their locations. So we were in his Innovation Center a while back, which is right here on the Chicago River. And I said, would you mind coming and sitting in the hot seat? He says, what does that mean? He says, I'm going to grill you with questions, and if we don't like the answer, I'm going to cut you off and go to the next question. So it's kind of a fun, fast-paced thing. We appreciate you coming, really do.
A mí no habla inglés.
Good answer.
Thank you for the invitation.
No, thanks for coming, seriously. It's a long drive, I know. But we have double news. We're into announcements here tonight. So Moises, good friend, been at Whirlpool a long time. We're going to talk about Whirlpool tonight. But he's just announced he is actually leaving Southern Michigan and moving here to head up innovation at Allstate. So congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
But let's start out with, just so you guys know the format, you can drink all you want, just listen up. We're going to try to keep it to 20 minutes. Have some questions ready, because I'm going to go to the audience at some point. And let's just start out with Whirlpool. I mean, I'm overwhelmed how you do all this, but Whirlpool, anybody want to guess how big they are? That's right, they're about $20 billion in revenue, about 70,000 people. They've got 70 locations around the world where they make this stuff. And this guy has been very instrumental in transforming them from what I think was a company that was pretty much on the brink of going out of business at one point. Sorry, I don't think there's any analysts here, so we're safe. Of course, I said that to the Granger guy, and there was an analyst in the audience. So tell us, seriously, how did design-led innovation transform Whirlpool? And quite frankly, your competitors, because you were in an extremely competitive space. I mean, the last time I went to ABT, the big shop here, it was dollars between the different machines. So tell us what you've done.
Some people from the city probably don't know what ABT is.
Yeah, ABT, one of the largest consumer electronics retail stores that's still family owned.
This journey started about 15 years ago. And there was a time where we had one thing we call the sea of whites, because when you went to stores, everything was white, and there was no way to decide which appliance to buy. And the only way to buy the appliance was if the Sears person will tell you, well, this one has the triple action agitator. And it's
I'm a triple action agitator. Yeah. Some people have called me that.
And if you buy it today, you'll get this promotion and so and so. What we found was that, our average price point was really coming down because there was no consumer differentiation. So the trigger to drive innovation for Whirlpool was we really have to be meaningful for the consumer, drive demand, and make them have a reason to buy our appliances. And that was really what innovation and design thinking was about. How do we understand what consumers need, what is going to be their unique desire, and give them that reason to change their product and not wait until it breaks, and create an association with the brand. And the way to achieve that was through understanding the consumer, understanding what are the motivations that actually make them make those changes, and ultimately have products that actually change their lives. And over the last 15 years, we've introduced so many new platforms. If you think about 15 years ago and today, 15 years ago you had a top-load washer, white, $399. Now you're thinking, front-load, colors, and it's $3,000 pair.
It's
so it's
crazy. It's like it's easier to buy a car now. I mean, it's just overwhelming. It's like, just give me the cheap one. That doesn't work anymore.
Well, we gotta make it meaningful and simple. And I think that's. I was just having a chat with someone here before the presentation. We need to make sure that when you see the appliance in the floor, you get home, and the consumers don't have to guess it. They don't have to call consumer support. They can just look at the interface. And know exactly what it has to do. And that's very difficult. And design, and experience design especially, is very important for us in that sense.
So, I have two of these monstrosities in one of our laundry rooms, and it still moves across the floor, though.
You gotta move.
It does. It's like it's on the cycle, and it just starts moving. Okay, why can't you get them to stop moving? Did that come out in the user research?
No, that was a very big problem, especially in old homes.
Old people? I thought he was going to say old people. Thank gosh.
We've had a lot of technical issues because it had been spinning so fast that you gotta really make sure it's balanced. So seriously, you gotta look for making sure it's balanced, and that'll avoid that. But there have been some technical technical improvements in that sense.
Yeah, you guys you out-innovated yourself. You have a spin cycle called Politician, and it goes so fast that the whole thing, never mind, sorry, bad joke. Okay, so then tell me what's the most radical thing you did? Something about moving out into the garage? I mean, if you came to me years ago and says, we're going to move everything out in the garage, I'm not sure that would have gone over well with most spouses.
Well, that was one of the, I think one of the biggest things that came through innovation. And it was about breaking some of our orthodoxies, we call them, or paradigms that exist in the industry. And a couple of paradigms that Whirlpool had was, number one, it's who buys the appliances. And let me ask that question. Who makes the decision at home?
Not me.
She does. And then the other paradigm that we had is, where does Whirlpool, what is the market? Where do we put our products? And typically we see them, they're either in the laundry room, in the basement, or in the kitchen. So when you think about that and said, okay, I'm going to flip that. I'm going to change that and just see what comes out. We said, what if we, target something for men? And what if we find for opportunities outside our traditional rooms? So let's get out in the garage. Is there an opportunity? And we found, that's the place where the men hide. When the wife doesn't want them at home, they go to the garage, they start working on their stuff. What if we make that space a livable space for them, something they can be proud of? And that's when the Gladiator brand was born.
So you have couches for us?
Everything you can imagine is to make that place, for the weekend warrior, we say.
Yeah. I mean, if you haven't seen the Gladiator line that they invented, it's pretty awesome. Where they just come in and retrofit a garage. I mean, there's been a lot of knockoffs since then, but you guys took a lot of risk, and for an old, stodgy company, that's a hard thing to do, to get them to say, "We're going to the garage." Did you have some pushback on this?
Well, it's always tough, especially when you are working in a large organization, and these businesses, even when you project them to 10 years, are minuscule when you think about the overall business. When you think about, we sell 6 million washers a year. Now, you can imagine what that means for Whirlpool, and then you say, oh, I'm going to come up with a business that in 5 years is going to be 100 million. It's difficult, but you got to look at the margins, you got to be looking at where is this going to lead you to, look at a migration path. So there are many things that,
So 100 million could be a rounding error at the board meeting.
Exactly.
But by the way, I would just remind them, hey, at one point, this company only made washers. We never made dryers, so that was a pretty big move.
Yeah, that's what we moved. And we used to make them only for Sears.
Saved a lot of marriages. That's right. It was a major Sears partnership. Let's talk about some of the problems in innovation. I call it the talk-to-do ratio. A lot of talking, not a lot of doing. So how did you guys bust through that? So it's not just an innovation group that gives speeches, talks to groups like this, but actually, move the bottom line and the top line.
Well, I'm going to give you two quick answers. One is, innovation has to be really tied to the strategy. What is it that you want innovation to do? It's not about, oh, we're going to do innovation, it's going to be great. Is what is it that we want it to do? And every company is going to be different. In our case, it was about, filling a growth gap. We said we can grow, geographically, we can expand channel-wise, but there's still a gap, and we're going to fill that gap with innovation. So that's, I think, a very important component. Then bringing that to action, I like to say that innovation people have to be bipolar. Because, you have to be able to talk to the board, make sure that they understand, why are you doing innovation? And why is it important? And, it's a business case. But when you have to motivate people that are designers, and they don't want to hear that, but they're the ones that can come up with the ideas, you have to behave very differently. So, the best innovators I've seen is they can live in those two worlds.
And some of the best innovators ignore the board. That's probably good advice, too. Any of you ever get a chance to take a tour of his facility on LaSalle, right at the river? It is, A, it's amazing, but B, you'll meet some of the designers that they're here for a reason. You had to get them the hell out of corporate. Did that help a lot to get them out of Michigan and open up a center here? That
helped, yeah. I mean, it's primarily to attract talent. Being away from, the headquarters actually helps too. Just you're not as influenced by the people, the business leaders that are there. So it's a growing team. A lot of designers moving there, and it's a great space.
So there's some young aspiring entrepreneurs here and people that want to be known someday as top innovators. So what can some of the younger people do to become known, or actually to become good at being a quote-unquote innovator, either in the company or just in a market they haven't even entered yet?
Well, it's difficult to have one right answer for that, but I will say that
he's sandbagging. So he teaches this at another university that we'll talk about in a bit.
I think innovation has different facets, and I mean, you have to really be able to command all of them to be a successful innovator, at least in the corporate environment. I think you have to understand strategy and business and make a good connection of why do you have to do innovation and what it means to the organization. And then that is going to translate into the actions that you're going to do, because every innovation project you do is going to be related to what you want to accomplish. And then you have to understand what are the different methodologies to drive innovation, which is a whole different world. You know, you design thinking, and we use what we call double diamond, and it's about creativity, so on and so forth. And then you have a third element, which is how do you sustain it in large companies? How do you create management systems, processes that makes it scalable? You know, when you think about Whirlpool, 70,000 employees, 5 regions that work very much independently, not because the CEO says, innovate, everyone's going to do it. You have to have management systems that actually sustain that over time and scale it, and they know what innovation is when they recognize it. So for me to be a good innovator, you have to be able to have command of all those aspects.
You know, when I brought the class in, I put you on the spot. I said, tell us where you are in this. And so at the risk of losing the audience and getting too technical here, I see 2 different styles of innovation, and 2 of the companies have been in the hot seat. Grainger, who was here last time, the product management groups that actually are in charge of getting stuff done, when they find something that's truly innovative, but they're a little scared or they need help, they'll throw it to the innovation group and say, help us with this. Exelon, who was here before Grainger, a little different. Sonny has a very refined innovation process where they're driving a lot of it and taking it out to the divisions. Not always, but it's one's more push, one's more pull. What say you?
I think you have to be able to create demand and supply for innovation. What I mean by that is you create the demand when the leadership asks for innovation and they have a clear objective and people have goals to accomplish. That creates a lot of demand because the teams that have to accomplish those objectives are going to be asking, give me the process, give me the tools, give me technologies, let's network. And then the supply for innovation comes from teams around the organization that can actually fulfill it. So you have to have a good balance of those.
Okay, I thought you were going to give us something juicy like politics and all that stuff, because a lot of infighting.
There's a lot of that. I think it just goes back to what do you want to accomplish, what's the strategy, and then that washes away everything else. But there are a lot of territories in innovation. Teams want to do their thing. I think innovations really, at the end of the day, come down to having the passion for what you're doing. And what you see in organizations a lot is that you start a project. People get very passionate. Oh, this guy is great. Moving to this job to that job. They put a new person. That new person can care less about that innovation. Let's do the new thing. So really, creating ownership and letting people own the innovations until they get to market. It's a very important element.
And that leads to a discussion about failure. Ownership is funny until something goes wrong, and then the top management gets amnesia. They're like, I don't know what the hell Moises is doing. I didn't give him the authority to do that. Before we go to that, let's talk about one question you and I always are asking is, we try to make innovation look so cool, and we have meetings like this, we write books. This is a book we're going to raffle off that's on Amazon that Moises and I contributed to, along with one of our other advisory board members who penned it, Luis Solis. So all of you that put your business card in the thing, it wasn't so we could spam the hell out of you, it was to give you this book. And if you like what we're saying up here, we can actually autograph it, but whatever, at least you can. We'll see if they like what we're saying here. But can you just dig into the dark side of innovation? It's like, I've talked about the talk-to-do ratio, not enough doing, the politics side of it, all that stuff. What's your dark side?
Not so sexy side of innovation. I think there are several things. I think when politics get involved, when resources become an issue, things get tough. One of the things that, at least in my world, have become the dark side of innovation is when we talk about metrics. And it's a very important topic because always people ask, how do you measure how you're being successful in innovation? And we have a very clear, being a very numbers-driven company, a lot of measures, pipeline and revenue and this and that. But when you start asking people, well, give me your numbers, let's measure it, they spend all this time, making reports, and I accomplished my goals and didn't accomplish them and this and that you lose all the energy of really making what's valuable, which is the actual product innovation or service, whatever the case may be.
Can we get your thoughts on design thinking? All the rage, a lot of people chasing it. How do you bring design thinking into these big, fat, slow companies that, quite frankly, need it? But what's your secret there?
Design thinking, I think, is maybe a very generic word. It has become very popular, and it's a way of accomplishing the innovation objectives, which are, I think, understanding and identifying consumer needs that are not obvious to us. Few people have the vision to do that just on their own. When we love to talk about Apple, but if you read Steve Jobs' book, you realize he was thinking 5 years, 10 years ahead. A lot of people like me, we cannot come up with that. So for me, design thinking is about a process that allows you to see that, in a systematic way. So for me, that's what design thinking brings to the world. And then, when you do it with discipline, when you do it with inspiration, creates energy, pulls people, and you accomplish great things.
So you guys have made some really cool products. What's the most expensive washer and dryer I can buy right now? Just load me up. Just what do you got?
Well, if you buy one of our prototypes, we'll probably, be too high.
I just wanted to show off. We're not going to use it.
Something in the market, you can get all the way to 1,500, maybe 18, when you get all the bells and whistles.
Oh, that's cheap. Okay. There used to be 300.
For someone like you, yeah.
I thought there was like a $5,000 line, and.
We've tried that, but one of the issues that we have is that we're very intolerant to low volume, and. When things don't move and inventories and all those things. Sears doesn't let us sit on any inventory, so it's hard.
Oh, Janet, you walked into that one. Our esteemed board member from Sears. So yeah, and at $5,000, you might as well just keep buying new clothes. Why invest in the hardware? Okay, now everybody in the audience is asking, what did Dean say? Moises is leaving Whirlpool and going to Allstate. Can you tell us about that journey?
Well, I've been with Whirlpool for 15 years, and I think this came through my recent work with Notre Dame. I was doing a lot of teaching, and I was realizing, all the stories that I have and all this work I've done is always somewhat in this space, in the product space. And I really want to be, personally, my goal is, to be one of the best innovation person in the market. So I said to be able to do that, I have to really move myself into a very different world and be able to apply all of that into a very different environment, very different circumstances. Allstate's in a very different place. It's in the beginning of the journey. I think it's a great opportunity to make a difference. Whirlpool is there, and I can always make incremental improvements, but to make a big change, it's a great opportunity.
Plus, you're on the other side of the lake, so you have to watch
the sun. They say I'm not going to be
comes up.
I'm not going to be a hillbilly anymore. They say.
You're going to be a hillbilly. Great, Phil. You're going to like the North Shore. I convinced him. So let's open it up to Q&A. Anybody? So tell us about, what can user experience design do for an insurance company? What's your thought?
I've started to get my head around it. I haven't gotten there, but.
You start Monday, so it's time to get going here. There's no time to.
When you think about your life, and I think insurance is about protecting your life's investment and protecting your net worth, and protecting you from all the uncertainties in your life. And I think, if I think of my own life, and I think of anybody's life, we live in a world of uncertainties. So for me to understand through design thinking, what are those biggest uncertainties, and how can I protect them? That's where I think opens a universe. And when you think about target markets, you think of, for example, I was in California last week, and all the world of migrant workers. They cross the border, they don't have banks. They have to move money from one place to another. That's a whole world that, insurance is not even thinking about it. I bet you it's a universe there to protect. So just one example of, I think, looking at some markets that could become, great potential businesses.
When John and I were at the Chamber of Commerce this morning, AT&T sponsored most of it, and they had an Audi car in the back that was totally wired. I've never seen such a wired car. And so I'm talking to the sales guy, killing time, and it's 7 in the morning, for God's sake. What are you going to do? So he goes, yeah, it's got this, it's got that, it's got, you got a hotspot, all your kids can be on the tablets. I'm like, whoa, back it up. It's like, does this have an unlimited data plan? Because that sounds really expensive. He's like, no, that's the whole point. We want to make a lot of money. So I said, you should come to our innovation series tonight. I'm interviewing Moises from Whirlpool, but he's going to Allstate, which is really exciting. And I'm looking for a user experience thing that would be really cool. So we talked about it. I said, I got it. When the airbags deploy, rather than me pushing a button, can it automatically search and just buy my insurance at the last minute before impact? It's kind of a just-in-time product. We thought that might be, no? Any questions? Real quick, couple questions. 2 in the back, go. Just shout it out. It's like TMZ. Just throw it out loud.
You're moving from Whirlpool, which is a product
I think obviously it's very different, different worlds. But I think, going back to Dean's questions about design thinking, it's about understanding the insights, acting on the insight, and then developing a product. It's a financial product as opposed to a hard good. I'm hoping it's a little bit easier because right now in Whirlpool, every time I do something, it's like, okay, we need technology, and the engineers always say, no, we cannot do that. So how are you going to do it?
I remember when I moved from hardware to software, I thought it was going to be easier. Someone else in the back, right?
But that's why we have ACTA that can develop our
ACTA can help. Good plug.
So you were mentioning that 9 to 10 years out, just self-driving cars and auto insurance. What does that mean?
I think that's in large what they're really getting serious about innovation, because that's one world that is changing. You think of the home environment is changing too, with connected appliances and devices that talk to each other. Those worlds are quickly evolving, and I think insurance plays a big role in that.
And Google could be the insurance company. It's like, have your car or call my car, they'll sue each other, something like that. One more question, hopefully funny. Anybody, questions? Don't let Moises off this easy. Can I get the 3D printing thing that we were making for Moises? Hopefully that survived the journey. We have a gift for you as part of the Octa Innovation Series. We're a big believer down in this lab trying all types of new things, so we play with 3D printers a lot. So we actually printed a Whirlpool logo for you, which
that is great.
The guys at Allstate are going to love.
That would look great in my Allstate desk.
A little more notice would have been helpful. It takes a long time to print something like this. And I want to thank everyone who did all the work for that.
You.
We'll take
it's
a
great.
photo later. And can we do the
It's
drawing
beautiful.
real quick?
Thank you.
Who's got the fish bowl, or is it just sitting out on the street upstairs, or did we bring it down? Julia. The book is called Innovation Alchemist. So a friend of ours is on the advisory board here, is from, wrote it with a bunch of different authors. So Moises and I guided him and wrote a couple of the chapters. And we're going to give it away.
Okay. This is for hello. Let's see.
He's not here.
No?
No.
Okay.
AT&T. He had to go.
Accenture, Diane Liebig.
Diane from Accenture. Woo!
Thank you.
Let us know if you still want an autograph. We understand if it's... Yeah, it's all right. So the Innovation Series is going to take a pause for the summer. We're going on break. And we have now set up a back-to-school Innovation Series. We think we'll be here if we don't grow out of this space.
You're going to invite me to the next ones?
You are invited.
Okay.
All the previous speakers are allowed to come and badger the MC here. And the speaker is going to be Daniel Hamburger, who is the CEO and chairman of DeVry. So it should be one about what's going on in the world of education. So I want to thank you all for coming. Please enjoy. The bar's open.